Lose listen, I told you that I was going to save my bullets on the Columbus game. I said, we played a poor game. It was awful. It was the second half. Cleaning the screen during the show. What's up?
We're back. It was bad. I could tell. Give me 1 sec. It's all good. We're here.
So I said I'd save my bullets. I didn't really give him hell for the Columbus loss. Now the team's 4-4, and they just played their old coach's team, and I don't think performed very admirably. So I'm not going to go full the fan that threw the Leafs jersey on the ice tonight. I think that
we are back. Let's go.
We're like 3 more losses from the return of Waffles. Like, what are we doing here? That's got to be the earliest jersey toss in Leafs history, right?
I can't imagine there be like Tampa was this week.
Yeah.
Like that was on Monday.
Yeah.
Where I don't know if I've ever been more excited about this core than 4 days ago. And now people are throwing jerseys on the ice. Listen, the boos, like I think I take the boos as like an isolated event for every game that people go to. Like, sure, there's people that have season tickets and go to every game, but like if I went to that game tonight, I spent let's say, if you're in this lower bowl, about $300 a ticket, $400 a ticket. I spent, close to $400 on food and beverage, 30 on parking. You had to deal with a night off, and I watched that effort. Probably going to throw it a boo, but I'd tell you right now, there's probably going to be a boo involved. Like anyone who's boo shaming, it's insane. Like I can't believe they would ever consider doing that. It's pro sports. It's a tough town to play in. It's a good sports town. People boo. I can't imagine being upset, but we don't need to dwell on it. I'm just saying, like, I can't believe anybody would feel any different.
So to me, I don't care about booing whatsoever. I think again, you pay the price of admission and you boo. And if you, like, I'm not going to ever be a person who complains about Leaf games being too quiet in the arena, and then when it's going badly and people are booing, going, "Wow, look at them now! They're caring too much. Look at them, quiet down, be quiet in your seats." Absolutely not.
Really talking out of both sides of our mouths if we did that.
I think the boo shaming is a touch of a straw man. I think it's a very select few people that will ever kind of boo shame. It does feel a little sillier, I would say, given that the Tampa Bay game, like you mentioned, was this week. But to me, the boos were for the power play. That goes 0 for 4 tonight. And entering the game was 26th in power play percentage going into the season. They flashed the graphic of their per 2 minutes.
I got it.
I've never seen power plays broken down the way that you sent me that graphic. But that was before the last one too, where they didn't threaten whatsoever. So hit me with those stats.
Well, so credit TSN who put up the stats. It's a really good board. And in the 2023-2024, their shot attempts they had the 4th best shot attempts, the 2nd best slot driving plays, which seems important on a power play, and expected goals was 4th. So all of those numbers are pretty good, and they ended up 7th. So they were a good unit last year. They had their lulls, obviously, but they had a good year overall. And the playoffs were awful. In 2024-2025, their shot attempts are 22nd in the league. Their slot driving plays are 23rd in the league, and their expected goals are 17th in the league. There's way too much. There's way too much talent. There's way too much money invested in these guys for it to look as bad as it does. And I don't know what, like, I don't know. I don't know. What is it?
Well, I can tell you my theories as to what it is, but I can tell you what needs to happen. This core 4 thing, when people were driven crazy about the idea that they were going to be run back again this offseason, when they brought in Craig Berube and they sat down at the podium, at the dais, and they spoke directly to the fans.
Yeah.
The message that they preached was accountability, accountability, accountability. Well, guess what?
It's time.
It's time. It's time to show some accountability and break up the big 4 forwards on the top power play unit and give something new. I think that when it comes to the actual problems with it, it's clear that the zone entries continue to be a bit of an issue. If it's not Matthews basically barreling down the middle of the ice, like that one opportunity he had in the first period, it doesn't seem like there's something that consistently works for them. I've mentioned this before, but it's far too often where it ends up being a Tavares shovel play and basically in the blue paint. that kind of ends up being, as they say in football, a drive killer. And then the puck's out the other end. And once it feels like there's a singular clear with that power play unit, you can feel the momentum being sapped out of the building. Do I think if you run them back out there for another 15 more games that it's going to start to normalize to a certain degree? Absolutely, I do. But this is what I'm saying about the accountability aspect of it, and also the price you pay for running a group back year over year. It's that the fans are booing, not because the power play stinks through the first 8 games of the season. They're booing because it cost you in the postseason last year.
It's got a rep here. It's got a reputation.
You can try to paper it over with an Oliver Ekman-Larsson and say, look how different it is. It's not. It's the 4 forwards. You got to break them up. It's time to do it. And I actually do not think that this is even like a remotely hot take, despite it being 4 games into the season. It's time for something new. It's time for some accountability.
8 games into the season. You said 4 games. 8 games into the season.
8 games. But yeah.
Which is a big sample size. It's enough. Like that's they look at
I have
10
4 and 4 stuck in my head. Like
they do 10 game samples. Like that's what a lot of teams do. And you're almost there, and it's crap. It is absolute dog do right now. Like it's just not good. And I think another thing that drives me nuts, if you're going to have Tavares out there for the draw, he better win it. And what is he like? This is totally anecdotal here. Is he 0 for 1,000 on that draw on the power play? There's so many times where they get down, they get the power play. It's like, okay, surely this is a moment where their high powered unit can dig them out of a hole, get them back into a game. And before you know it, the puck's down behind the net and they're trying to enter the zone and they can't do it. That draw on the power play, Tavares got tossed out a couple times. Matthews gets beat. The draw on the power play has killed them. I don't know like how you would ever look that up. I don't think it's impossible. Maybe it's just a fan thing. Maybe it's confirmation bias. But it feels like to me, they lose that draw all the time and they start behind the 8 ball. And listen, you talk about breaking it up. If the Edmonton friggin' Oilers can break up their top unit, which they did at practice today, guess who else can do it? The Toronto Maple Leafs can do it. And
to
the
me,
Oilers,
it's a simple solution too. It's like you give
Tavares off.
No,
done.
but no, it's not that. It's Tavares and take Tavares and Nylander or Tavares and Marner and put them on one, and put Matthews and Marner or Matthews and Nylander on one, and completely spread the wealth. Like, don't try to pin it on one guy because they're clearly sensitive to this, man. Like, there's a reason why they've been so reluctant to do it. And part of it is that none of the guys want to be the fall guy, rightfully so. I wouldn't want to be the fall guy. I know naturally that I'm sure there have been guys.
All this stuff is moot because this is what the big bad Berube effect was supposed to be.
That's what I'm saying.
Accountability, like you said. It's like this was why you got rid of Keith, because this stuff with Berube wasn't supposed to matter, and favoring in the core 4 and team A and team B, that was supposed to be a thing of the past and a thing of the past. And with the power play, like I think they have looked different at 5-on-5. I think they've been better defensively at 5-on-5. Like they clearly have looked better. Not tonight. Listen, tonight shook me a bit, but if I'm being totally honest, like, after the way they play on Tuesday, and it's Berube's former team coming into town. I listened to Berube's morning address. He seemed nervous. He seemed really excited. He was really kind of in a jovial mood. He's laughing with the reporters about his wife selling his Stanley Cup ring. Like, he was in an abnormally good mood today. And, I just really was expecting that to kind of go through the team and get everybody excited. And they go down early and they kind of weren't great from there. So they had their moments where they got back in, but a lot of it was score effects where the Blues are playing prevent and the Leafs get some chances when they're down 3-1, 4-1. But outside of that, man, it wasn't a great effort.
No. I thought, obviously, Matthews was dangerous throughout the night.
For sure.
And, he's probably a story moving forward. But outside of him, in the first period, I just felt it was very similar to the Columbus game in that there was poor gap control. The breakout passes were not crisp and not great like we've seen in some of the other victories so far this season. I thought that there were certain guys that looked disengaged. And listen, part of this is that we just saw the Tampa Bay game. Like, we just saw you come out fully engaged, hard on forechecks, making great breakout passes, playing with good gap control, attention to detail. Like, the first goal that they give up, like Marner, is basically asleep at the wheel, thinking like nothing bad is going to happen. And that's the kind of stuff that you need to not have in a game that's supposed to feel big for your head coach. And especially, like you mentioned, coming off of a stinker. So we have this game where you put it all together, where you played excellent, where you inspired hope amongst a lot of people who observe this team and who cheer for this team. And now you've kind of come out with 2 where you haven't looked at all like that. And I'm sorry, because this feels more, again, like my opinion, what I'm watching. Didn't love the team's body language tonight. Like, didn't like the way that guys were skating, didn't like guys on the forecheck. There's very little outside of just Matthews' relentless creation that I was looking at and going, ooh, well, that's a positive. Like, you can go through all my notes. It's only Matthews in the positive categories tonight.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I thought on that goal from the point there, like you said, Marner, he's like, one of his calling cards is supposed to be like his defensive awareness and his stick check ability and him reading pucks. Kairu's skating Tanev into the ground, but he's doing a good job. He's keeping up with him. He's denying the middle of the ice. It's like Kairu's one of the fastest guys in the league. The old boy defenseman needs a help. Like, you need to read a puck for him. You need to do something for him there. And he's just sitting there watching, lands on Broberg's stick. It's a seeing eye shot that gets through wall or whatever. But it's just, I don't know.
Can I tell you something too for Joe Woll? Like,
yeah.
If you're a goalie and you're coming back and you're playing in St. Louis, it's a homecoming for you, and you've been on the IL, and there's been talk about the other goaltender, and you kind of just got thrown in there. Not surprisingly, we all knew he was coming back soon, but it was announced today and not everyone was expecting it. You're playing for the hot guy. You know what you absolutely do not want to start the game is to be completely screened and have a shot that never should have even made it towards the net. And all of a sudden feeling like, oh my God, I've already let in 2 goals on my first 5 shots of the game, where one of them comes from that, which is lack of attention to detail. And then the other one, same thing, where it's a penalty kill where all 4 guys go into the corner. And was it Broberg that ended? No, it was
Broberg scored the first one and Holloway scored the second one. It was the revenge of the offer sheets tonight. Boy, 2 for Holloway and 2 for Broberg.
Tough start for
Edmonton. Broberg.
Tough start for Edmonton. Right? Like, they're getting caved in and losing all these games. And then these 2 guys are just collecting points left, right, and center. But either way, it's just to kind of hang him out to dry and have him have 2. I liked that Woll responded with a bunch of good saves and sort of kept them in this game for a while. The 4th one is a lot on Nylander, but you kind of accept that's part of Nylander's game. But Woll, that's one you got to have. I'm sorry, that's a softie. I don't think he was particularly spectacular in this game, but it's kind of harder to blame him when you start off like that and put him right behind the 8 ball.
Yeah, it's when you get used to literally the best goaltending in the league, you're going to have a little drop off with whoever goes in net. Like Stolarz, we had, Valley on our show on Tuesday. We have him on every Tuesday. And he gave us like his, clear sight analytics, like all his stuff for best goaltending in the league. And Anthony Stolarz is number 1. So, when you go literally to the not best goalie in the league, there's going to be a bit of a drop off. So I think
but I mean more so that it's like this guy's getting back in the net, trying to get comfortable in the season, no full, like no real ramp up. And it's just like, here you go, man. Here's 2 goals on 5 shots.
It probably feels like crap.
Feel horrible.
Yeah, for sure. No question.
Like, that feels especially bad. And that's why, again, like I'm not trying to give Woll a ton of credit here, because I don't think that he played particularly well either. And like I mentioned, the backbreaker goal that goes in tonight is a bad one, but I think you got to commend him a little bit for some of the saves that he made. He makes a breakaway save. He makes a cross crease, big save. He had some like better rebound control as the game went on. Like, I actually think that he kept the Leafs. This could have been a blowout early, but he made a couple of really tough saves, and that was really encouraging for me.
Yeah, you mentioned body language with a lot of the guys tonight, which is something that I would agree with. Didn't think his body language changed. Thought he was still, alert, steady, battling and like looking good on these plays. Like, that's a really great save if you're watching on YouTube. On the 2-on-1, comes across, reads it nicely. Like, yeah, he was far from the reason they lost. It's just like, as the 2, and I don't know what Stolarz, if what we can call our group called, but like as the 2 leaders of the fan club,
I don't think Stolarz wins this game.
No, that's what I mean. We want to find reasons to be like, Stolarz wins it, but he probably doesn't. So, I mean, at least scored 1 goal. So it's hard to go on that island. It's hard to go on that one.
Well, and I don't think maybe the first one hits Stolarz because he's just that little bit of much bigger, and he's been battling great and tracking the puck amazing. But the second one is like, what are you supposed to do? It's a guy right in front of the net. Maybe he makes it, but either way, it just the Leafs didn't play well enough tonight where you can pin this on a mistake that they played with the goaltender. They just, again, they were not nearly engaged enough. And I feel extremely comfortable saying that, given what we saw against Tampa Bay, which, sorry to you guys, but that's the measuring stick now. And what was your point from after that game? Hey, it was after the Columbus game. When you mentioned, hey, you got to play like that with consistency now, because that's what your coach wants you to do. That's the style, that's the effort level, that's the attention to detail. And 0 for 2 since is not overly encouraging. So yeah, don't love it.
Yeah, it's like I'm not trying to like panic or anything. Clearly, it's a
panic. We're just watching.
But like show. I have like a bit in my mind, I do. Like I am a fan at heart, and I'm an up and down. I'm a weather vane. That's what makes Leaf fans great. And this one sucked. Yeah. This one really kind of, I was really confident in the Berube Leafs after Monday night.
Yeah.
And then, to have these two performances back to back, it is a little bit concerning. So you'll see what happens. You're going into Boston on Saturday night. All could be forgiven. Looks like the Bruins aren't having a great year here. Like there's some stuff about them not being very good at all. So maybe you have a chance to kind of bounce back against them, but it's the Leafs in Boston. You always know how that goes. But yeah, concerning effort tonight for me, for real.
Well, here's the thing. Brian McAvoy put in our chat, all the scapegoats are gone. And he's right for the most part, other than
except the fact for Shanny.
I was going to say the main scapegoats are the core four. I think that they still take the biggest beating out of all of this, but when it comes to excuses around them, but no, I am going to judge them more critically for a game like this. This is a game where your head coach, we're supposed to be buying a narrative that this guy is going to make a material change in terms of what you see with the group. And tonight was very familiar. It's a slow start. It's a bad power play, and it's brain farts and some real moments where the team does not look fully with it. And so you put those things together, and then you put them with, it's playing the coach's former team, and it's coming off of by far your worst game of the season, which everyone gives you a pass on. You get crushed for this. You get crushed for this. This is a losery loss. This is a bad loss. This is not like it's the 8th game of the season. No, this is the 8th season of those guys. So no, that's not the way that this is going to be operating this evening.
Totally agree. That's really well said. And it's like, you need to, I'd be interested to see what Berube says tonight. We talked about him not using one of his bullets. He didn't use one of his bullets after the Columbus game, and he kind of let them off the hook a little bit, and more of like the flush it mentality. Kipper was talking about on our show about how he would have liked to see someone look into the camera, maybe the captain, maybe Marner, maybe somebody, and just say, hey, that's a joke. That's not good enough. Tonight would be a really good night for that. Tonight would be a good night for somebody to not speak in a cliche for once from the core, right? It's just,
you're right. You know what? That's actually a great point. I hope tonight in the post game that it's a player that like the players own it, that they take accountability on themselves rather than having what?
This is year 8 asking for this.
I don't care. That's supposed to be a difference. And I really am supposed to believe this year that Matthews and Marner specifically have taken steps forward as leaders, because that was, again, a big part of the discussion with Marner going up into the altitude, up into the misty mountains with all the greatest players from Canada, and coming back with a renewed confidence and feeling like he was more confident in the way that he handled himself on media day, all of those things. So yeah, I do want to feel a bit of a different Marner tonight. We don't need to blow this out into those guys needing to feel like it's a panic. And I don't want to hear them say that, where they're like, nobody's panicking in this room. No one else is panicking. No one thinks that the season is over 8 games into the season, but you let down your coach tonight, and you let down the fans in that building. And it shouldn't have to be Berube that holds you accountable tonight. It should be you as a group to know that this is not good enough and that it has to be better, and to say so and then do something about it in the next game. Yep.
Well said. Did you want to mention Pontus Holmberg tonight again?
Here's the thing. It's hard for me to single out guys when it's everyone. I think if we're talking about who's we do the best player of the game, right? We usually put that poll up.
Who's the best player on the Leafs tonight? I actually thought it might have been Robertson. Robertson or Matthews. Well, outside of Matthews. I thought Robertson had a really good game tonight. Is that a nice thing to say? I thought he was actually buzzing a bit.
Yeah, he's buzzing a bit, but you got to stop bobbling the puck and stay on your skates. It's just like another game where it's on the ice count of 3 and a bobble count of 3 as well. He ripped a couple towards the net. He felt a little bit more dangerous. I'm with you. Give him credit where credit's due, but man, stop. Why does the ice seem to change when the puck goes over to you? Is it God holding up a magnifying glass?
Yeah, and he's got a trampoline on his blade right now. Yeah, everything is bouncing on him immediately. So, but I did think he was a little bit better tonight, but Matthews was pretty breathtaking for stretches of that
Matthews
game.
Was amazing for so much of it. I actually think it's funny because he's on pace.
This is Mario-esque if you're watching on YouTube, by the way. This is like legitimately look like Mario Lemieux coming down the slot here.
But this pack that we're going to show here of Matthews' chances, like the game is very different if a couple of these goes in. Like one of them goes off the skate of, I think like a Parayko maybe.
Mm-hmm. It was. He was looking the other way. It was Parayko. He was looking towards the end boards.
It's a bad bounce, but Matthews was creating a ton in the first period and in the second period. And then I sort of thought he faded as the game went on, and there wasn't as many dangerous opportunities for him. Like I'm guessing I think he finished with 10 or 11 shot attempts. I stopped looking because it became the point where I was like, everyone gets the point. I don't need to get this stat down correctly. But he was absolutely dangerous. But yes, Matthews has looked awesome to start a lot of seasons, and he scores a ton of goals to start a lot of seasons.
Yeah.
He's not doing that right now, but I have just zero concerns. He looks amazing to me. He looks completely dialed.
Yeah. It's a funny thing to say about two guys that have been -6 in their last 2 games, but
I agree. But I'm not against them like holding that line accountable too and trying something different because of the minuses. Like the dashes matter to me. I know that it's off in the fancy stat world, but yeah, if you're -5 you said in the last 2?
Well, they were weren't they -3 on Monday against Columbus, and they were -3 tonight.
They were -3.
Nyes was -3. Yeah, they were all -3. So it's -6 through 2. Yeah. I
just I would probably show a little bit more patience with, because there has been a lot of good with Nyes.
Yeah.
A lot of good with
Marner's been very good, to be honest.
Neither do I.
I just don't, I just don't think the zip's there. I even again in that game against Tampa where everyone was so great, like it's just he's not his dynamic self right now. The regular season Marner that we get used to, it's not necessarily there. Maybe it's some of the pressure, the contract stuff. I don't know what it is, but he hasn't looked like himself to the start. Fell asleep defensively tonight. Hasn't been great. I don't love the start to the season for him. We would have thought going into this where it would have been the contract year thing where it's like, oh wow, you're going to get the best possible version of Marner going into this season, where he's really trying to prove that he's worth as much as William Nylander or more than William Nylander, as much as a little bit less than Matthews. And it's kind of gone the other way for him, where he's probably putting a little bit too much pressure on himself. And in terms of their personalities, Willie Nylander at the start of last year has the best start of his career, and he's not overthinking things. Marner is definitely the type of guy that's going to overthink things. You just look at the way they are with the media, look at the way their personalities are. It's gone the other way so far for Marner. I think he might actually be leading the team in points, but it just hasn't been the same. It hasn't been the same.
No, I agree with you. Again, his game is not as simple or easy to evaluate, I think, as Nylander's is. Yeah. Because he does do more. Like he just does. There's a reason why one of them is like a very good defensive forward, and the other one is not. Like he's clearly not that. But yeah, I agree with you. I don't think that Marner has, him getting caught on that one play was pretty ugly. Like to not have any, this is a guy who's got great spatial awareness, and to not feel that defender tracking him was a bit tough. But no, I'm with you. This has not been the start to the season that I think Mitch Marner would have wanted. But that being said, my strongest case against shifting him off the top line or breaking them up, and why I would be more patient with that, power play, fine. But that's why you're taking 2 guys off, because you don't want to scapegoat one guy and say he's the problem. And I think Morgan Riley, as a leader, as a vet, as someone who's been around here a long time, took that in stride. Wasn't really a story. Yeah. And it was the most obvious lever to pull early on. Yeah. Why you don't break up that top line is, one, they're creating a lot of chances. Yes, some pucks have gone in the back of the net. Yes, they made a mistake again tonight where Tanev gets caught in between, and it's a puck that gets shoveled out in front of him, and he's like, why is this here? Why is this here right now? Yeah. And it's because of a mental mistake from that line. But if you put Marner with Tavares, right? Because you're not moving Nyes right now. He's playing excellent. You're getting a lot out of him. There's no way that you're moving Nyes. So the idea would be that you're moving him with Tavares, which is a clear demotion, and it's not what he wants. And then all of a sudden, what has been a quiet start to the season from a contractual play narrative, all this different stuff, that gets screaming loud in the market. And if amplifies, that's what I'm saying. If they decided to do that, I think that would show like kind of gross negligence, and it would just be poorly thought out, poor touch. To me, that's just not the move right now. If you're talking like 25 games in the season and you need a shakeup, fine. But 8 games in to remove Marner and make it seem like that line isn't producing what you need it to, and it's his fault in any way, is just, I just think that's too much right now. He's not playing poorly. He's just not been amazing.
I thought that he got the brunt of it too there from, I know the Blues feed wasn't showing Berube on the bench, but he was pretty animated towards those three guys. Marner's on the ice. He doesn't have the back check on that goal there that ends up in the back of the net. He's looking down there. He's screaming at those guys. We just had the situation with Marchand and Montgomery. And Marchand,
perfect timing for this game, I guess.
Boy, did you hear how Marchand handled it too? It was like the classiest answer of all time. Like, God, why are you such a beauty? Why did don't make me hate you, don't make me love you, Marchand.
Too late. Gave that I know, and I was like, I love you to death. And he's going to wear a Team Canada sweater, and I'm going to be all in on him, and I'm going to have to pretend like I hate his guts again.
But I'll be interested to see if anybody asks any of those guys about it and what their answers are. So, I liked it, but you can yell at them all you want, but the only way you're going to actually discipline them is with ice time. And, I don't think you're going to bench any of those guys. So screaming at them, maybe they'll listen, maybe they'll tune you out. Who knows? But I like that from Berube, giving it to him a little bit after a bad goal against.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I prefer it actually in front of the cameras, and I hope that they are developing the kind. I would imagine they are, because again, Berube is one of those guys that's like universally respected around hockey. Yeah. So I think it would actually be pretty troubling. And if those guys weren't responding to him and they didn't have that respect for him, that it would tell you a lot of what you need to know that maybe you already should know about this core. But either way, that wouldn't be a very good thing. That's why I genuinely am curious to hear what the players have to say, not so much what Berube has to say, because I don't think he's going to sewer them. Like, I just don't think it's his style. I think he's going to go out there, say what he thinks happened wrong in the game. Not like he's not going to be dishonest, but I don't think it's going to come at the expense of being like how Montgomery went after Pasternak in the playoffs. Yeah. Like, you're not doing one of those tonight with somebody. You're not like, it's not enough from Mitch.
What a move that was, by the way. Like, has a coach ever looked smarter? Calls him out and he scores the OT winner. Like, Jesus. Anyways, Nick just put in the chat here. Craig Berube on what went wrong defensively tonight. We're losing coverage. We're not helping each other out in coverage areas. Some of them are mental mistakes, and some of them we've just got to be harder. Okay.
I agree. I like, honestly, when we were doing the story of the game, or we didn't really do the story of the game, but mine was genuinely going to be like the coverages, the gap control, the breakouts, like it looks like a team that is just brand new, thrown together, and that this is not like a rolled over core of a bunch of guys who have already played together or who just had the Tampa game. So yeah.
The third goal was just not doing things right. It was lazy hockey.
Bang it was. On. The third goal was the worst goal of the night.
Yeah.
Like,
no question. No question.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think he's going to break down the game and be honest with the bad plays, but I just don't think he's going to be calling guys out yet.
I guess it's a bit of a rapid fire one.
Sure.
But boy, I got to tell you, he was jumping off the sheet to me tonight.
He looked great.
Like, I'd heard that he'd had a good start. I haven't tuned myself into a ton of Blues games, but I read
an article about him yesterday.
To watch him up close tonight, he's a big guy. He's flying around, scores the goal. He set up, I don't know who he set up in the slot on the one where Morgan Riley high sticked wall, but he flies behind the net and sets that up too. Like, I said in the summer that it was the right move for the Oilers to kind of let him go, because what they have to pay Bouchard, what they have to pay McDavid coming up here, Draisaitl, all that stuff. But it's pretty clear to me that guy's got something to me. Like, he is a guy with the size, the scoring ability. Oilers fans, the way it started there with them and watching him play like this, that's got to be like the number one thing they're talking about there outside of the crappy power play and their slow start.
Yeah.
And Holloway looked good. He was buzzing. I didn't notice him as much. He scores the goal where he's all alone by himself. Scores the empty netter. Yeah, he's good. He's flying around. He's buzzing around. But Broberg, to me, he's like, whoa, that guy could be a top pair guy. Like, he's Broberg. Big, moves beautifully, snapping it around. Yeah, I wouldn't love to start the season if I'm an Oiler fan. He looked awesome.
I think it's a two things can be true situation where the Oilers had to let those guys go at that number. Yeah. Just it wasn't sustainable with their team.
For sure.
But also you're feeling like, oh my God, I hate you forever, Doug Armstrong. Like, why did you do this to us? Like, we were in a situation.
Watching Ty Emberson bumble it around every night, and it's like this guy's snapping it. I'm like, oh no.
We're going and picking off the old Leaf scrap heap with Travis Dermott.
Oh, Nurse making $9.5 million, like that decor. They could really use a Broberg right now. But
what can you do? Sucks so much about the NHL right now, though, and like the hard cap is just like you make one bad contractual mistake like that,
and you got no chance.
You're screwed. Like, it just hurts you so badly. And especially in the Canadian markets where you do have to like pay the actual price, not the tax-free price.
At the Shea Theodore price?
Yeah.
Absurd.
It's just backbreaking. Yeah, it's just backbreaking. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's super annoying. Anything else from this game for you? I don't really have anything else.
No, nothing else major. Nothing else major. We got another one on Saturday night.
One last time.
I had a couple Morgan Riley thoughts, but we can save it.
The OEL bomb was nice. Good for him
nice.
getting his first goal as a Leaf. I thought it was good read by Riley, and then a good patience by him and Tavares that created that goal. But what a bomb!
He hit it hard.
Refreshing. Yeah, he
hit
did.
It hard.
That was refreshing. But yeah, nothing really else for me. I will say this. Subscribe to this podcast, leave 5 stars, hit the thumbs up on YouTube. It helps the show grow, and that's what makes it continue. As if the show is growing. And I just want to thank people who, like, I had a lot of people reach out to me about my Matt Sundin interview.
Buddy, that's what I was just about to bring up. I was gonna I don't want to blow too much smoke up your butt here, but you did a phenomenal job, buddy. I'm proud of you.
Yeah,
I listened to that and I was like, holy crap, you're really good at this. And
thanks,
I don't want to give you too much credit because I don't have to, we're buds after all. I don't want to give too much credit, but you knocked it out of the park. It was unbelievable. I'm proud of you. Nice. You did a really great job. So,
it was nice that he was so responsive and that he really seemed to enjoy it. Because
I thought I was book and like you really made a difference, and you could tell that he knew that you read it and that that made a difference to him. And but the boys had a big Sundin week. Like holy smokes, you're crushing the interview. I got a picture immediately.
You being taller than him in the picture is actually gotta be the greatest thing of all time.
Looking eye to eye with Sundin, I was like, yep.
You're right. Like so, the weird thing is that I have a few buds who are taller than you, including one of my other best friends who's 6'9" mutant. And so, and like we're around each other so much that like I forget how tall you are sometimes, like you just sort of forget. Like even when I'm with Hayes, who's 6'9", whenever he gets stopped by someone who's like, how tall are you? I'm like, oh, right, he's a giant. Like
he's a freak.
or it's always like a photo that I see with us where I'm like, oh, damn it, that's me. Damn, I'm
like Riccio with that fella or whoever it was.
Exactly.
That's what it's like.
It sucks. But that one was a reminder of how tall you are when you're like, taller than Sundin and Kipper and Bourne look tiny, and I went, nice. Yeah, Blake's in hell with Bonner every day.
Great
photo.
Call, Swan Dog. That's bang on.
I think if I was Blake, I would quit the show. Like I don't think I could handle it. I don't think my ego could handle just daily photos.
Bonner's big though, man. I saw Bonner around the office for the first time, and I was like, damn, like you're a big guy. Like you made me feel small. So like an average heighted person, it's like, holy crap, I get it.
I'm not saying he's not, like, of course he is.
Yeah.
But it's just it's a bad visual. Like it's just not it's a bad visual, brother. It's just not an easy thing to endure on a daily basis. But anyways, you can go listen to that. It's on my podcast feed. But
Kipper got me. I got this book beside me here. He got Matt's to sign it for me to Sam, which was a nice move.
Very nice.
Yeah,
that is very nice.
Because he felt bad that he didn't bring up that he was my hero, and I didn't remind Kipper so that he wouldn't bring it up. Clearly, that was my nightmare in front of him.
That is
of course.
That is the absolute correct call.
Yeah, but then he got that book signed for me, so that was nice.
There is nothing worse than like Kipper's basically your mom picking you up from school when you're like in grade 6, being like, "Come give me a kiss." If he said that on Matt Sundin, I love you. You're like, please don't do this in front of my friends. Yeah, nightmare. Anyways, thanks for
congrats
listening.
Again, man. If you haven't listened to it, people that are listening, go listen to Bunk's interview with Sundin. It was phenomenal. Proud of you.
Thanks. I do appreciate it. All right, subscribe, review, do all those things, and then we will see you on Saturday night. Yes.
Bruins.
Yeah, Bruins.